What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of JaAR. JaAR, for those of you that may be new, stands for Joe.
And Amy.
Review. This is our weekly show where we review the Magic stories. And you didn't get to see it, but I messed up that intro twice already today because it has been a busy week for us here at Geek for All. So if you missed it, earlier this week on Monday, we posted a video of us competing in the Great Eldraine Bake Off, where we totally made a delicious meal. Don't worry. And you can go see that video. I'm sure it'll be linked at the end for you as well. And then this video comes out on Thursday. Yesterday, being Wednesday, we released a new video on our Video Games for All channel, which was the 5th episode of Amy going through the original Pokemon Red from the original Game Boy. That was a really good one. It was a little long, but if you're watching JaAR, you probably know that already, that you're okay with videos going a little bit longer than you would expect them to.
But that just me.
What?
You said it was just me in the video.
Well, we're both there, but Amy is the one making all of the decisions. I'm just the pilot. But it was a very, very interesting video, and I highly encourage you to check it out. And a huge thank you goes out to any and all of you that joined us on Tuesday on our preview stream for Throne of Eldraine, our early access event stream that we did right here on this channel. It was sponsored by Wizards of the Coast, so we also owe a thank you to them, as we always do and as we always will do. Huge thank you to them, but huge thank you to any and all of you, like I said, who came out and stopped by. You said we enjoyed ourselves a lot, right? Yes. It was a lot of fun hanging out with chat, playing New Sealed and trying it out, and having some crazy 3-color Oko decks and things like that. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. It is obviously a long one because we streamed for a long time, but if you want to watch bits and pieces of it, the video on demand of that is still on our channel, so you're more than welcome to go check that out as well.
Or if you want to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, God, whatever you want, just realize that it's a long one, that's all. But yeah, so, and then, speaking of long weeks, this video is coming out on Thursday, which means tomorrow, Friday, is pre-release. We are going to our sponsor store, and we are going to be filming, as we always do, opening some pre-release kits. We are presumably going to get 4. I have not specifically worked that out with the owner yet, so I don't want to make any promises, but that is typically what we do. That is probably what we will be doing again, or at least that's what we will try to do. It is obviously while supplies last, and they are always awesome to us there, so we will definitely be going there. We will be filming, opening the kits so that you all can see what that looks like. We are going to try to get that out as soon as we can on Friday night. Now that the first event is not at midnight, we might actually be able to get our kits before then and get it out to you before midnight for like a reasonable hour of people to watch it. At least, here for us in the Eastern U.S.
Right.
But yeah, so we're going to try to do that for all of you, as we always do, as well as a promotional video, just getting to see what a pre-release looks like at that store, some cool things that people are opening. I'm sure we're going to see some cool showcase cards, some mythics, some rares, some foil rares and mythics that are going to be awesome. It's always fun to see, like, fun combinations of things that people open in their pools, like crazy busted, like, all-on color rares and mythics, or like a complete spectrum of the rare land cycle or whatever that somebody opens. That's not good for them if they're competing in the event, but it's always fun to see that kind of a thing. So we will definitely be checking that stuff out. So please stay tuned to the channel. Feel free to subscribe. That helps us out a lot.
Yes, please.
Apologies for all of the info dump, but like I said, it has been a busy week. I forgot the intro to our show that we've been doing for like 150 episodes plus. So yeah, that was, it's been a rough week. We streamed a lot. I think I went to bed at like 2 a.m. and then woke up at like 7 and went to work for like 8 hours today or something ridiculous. Anyway, so on to this episode of JaAR, where today we are covering Chapter 12 of The Gathering Storm by Django Wexler. My quick review at the top of this one, in case you have not read the chapter yet, I liked this one. It is very short. So there is not a big time commitment for you in reading it, but it was enjoyable. It was basically, as you put it, maybe I'm stealing your thunder, so maybe I won't say it. Amy, what did you think of the story? Just say what you were going to say, and then just, not
I'll
say
say
it at all.
what you were gonna say.
Sure.
The story really was more just a fight scene with a different piece at the beginning. It really wasn't a story, but it was good.
It was very good, and it was a welcome change of pace, I thought, from the week before. Because the week before, we were like, last week we were like, well, it was good, right? It was a fine story. The writing was good. It just, there wasn't a ton going on. They were just like talking and planning, but it's because they were coming down from chapter 10. So they kind of took you up for chapter 10, back down for 11, back to the real world of like, okay, not every chapter is going to be this crazy thing going on. And then right ahead in chapter 12, they were like, guess what? And just smacked you in the face with a very long, I think the longest fight scene we've had in these chapters so far.
Yeah.
So that's the quick review at the top. If you have not actually gone and read the chapter yet, feel free to do so. Search The Gathering Storm by Django Wexler. I'm sure you can find it. It is a free story. Those are apparently going by the wayside, so get it while you can.
Yeah.
Feel free to go look that up and read that chapter before coming back here to us if you would like to hear our review of it, and more importantly, join in the discussion of that story and your thoughts on that. So, onto the full review itself. That small portion at the beginning that Amy was talking about was Teysa and Kaya talking with one another. It again was a reminder of what happened in the previous chapter of Teysa basically telling Kaya that it's not okay for her to go and join in with Ra'al's forces to fight, to try to overtake that one spot in the Golgari controlled territory for the node, for the ley lines. And the Kaya is basically like, I'm fine, she seemed almost teenagery, if that makes sense. Like, in her mannerisms and her maturity level, Kaya was just like, I'm fine. I'm not going to get hurt. I'm fine. I just want to do it. I want to do what I want. Stop telling me what I can't do, Mom. It really, to me, it seemed like
now
that.
she has quite a burden upon her.
Yes, and responsibilities.
That she really didn't have before.
Yes. And speaking of the burden that's on her, an old woman and her 2 grandchildren show up and meet up with Kaya, and the little kid bursts it out because the grandmother is like still very respectful. This is the guild master and you have to be nice. And the kid just bursts it out. The kid's like, Kaya's like, what are you doing here? And the kid's like, well, Grandma said that you would, that anybody that talks to you personally, you will wipe away their debts. And Kaya's like, oh, okay, I guess. I guess I'll do that. She heard the story. She felt bad and she was like, all right, fine, I'll do that. And severed that, but then ends it with, just don't tell anybody, okay?
Right.
Like, don't go spreading this around.
It's already a rumor, obviously.
Yep. And there's no way this woman just left the house with her 2 grandchildren and didn't tell a soul what she was going to go try to do. Where when she gets back, they're going to be like, how did it go? And she's going to be like all happy and chipper and be like, oh, I can't talk about it. Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Or she's going to be like, oh, yeah, those debts are still going to be hung over these children's heads for as long as they live.
Yeah, and again, then that kid who just says whatever is going to be like, no, Grandma, she said it was gone. So yeah, that is not at all how that works, Kaya. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she'll learn that the hard way. I'm sure this is only the beginning, because this is now the second person, family, whatever you want to call it, that she has absolved of their debts. And it does not, based on the way that this story foreshadowed, or this chapter foreshadowed it, I'm sure that this is not the last time she will be doing that either. So,
it does, I don't know, it does seem like, I don't know, never mind.
Yeah, okay. It seems like she's at least considered the option or the possibility of wiping all of the debts at once.
Yeah.
And realizing the fact that it could kill her. But she's still considering it, and I guess in contrast with that, she's considering it but also worried about her home world, her home plane, and the whole reason that she made the deal with Bolus in the first place. Even though at this point she's relatively certain that Bolus is not going to do what he promised and fix the sky. And she said, she's like, well, if I die, then everyone on my world dies. Maybe not at the exact same time, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 20, whenever the sky is done ripping itself apart. Which is pretty morbid, honestly. But again, I think you brought it up about us, or reminded again that we don't really know exactly where she's from, and I'm super interested. So it's up in the air. I'm not going to go on a rant, and I'm not going to get upset because this was a good story. But what I will say is I have no idea now, because there is little to no information shared with anyone about anything. I have no idea whether the storyline threads that were ended in War of the Spark, or that occurred in War of the Spark, whether that will truly continue or not after the Forsaken book, which again today on Twitter, like Del Rey Books or whatever was tweeting about it, and they were like, yep, comes out like November 2nd. It's like, sure, people are totally going to care about the War of the Spark story on November 2nd.
Right. They didn't care about... Never mind.
Exactly. So
I keep biting my tongue.
No, it's fair. It's fair. And I said I wouldn't, and I towed a little further than I wanted to. So apologies. But yeah, that's where we're at this point in terms of like this story, what the rest of this story looks like. Like any unanswered questions, we have to wait until November for that. I mean, obviously, if we have an unanswered question here, it's possible that it gets answered in the next 8 chapters before, like between now and chapter 20. But if not, since we know it wasn't answered in the War of the Spark novel that is the sequel basically to these, then the sequel to that novel is coming out in November, and that's where we will hopefully get our answers on those things. But again, with Kaya, it's definitely a possibility that just waits until we are on a set on that world, and then we learn about it, because then Kaya will be there again.
Yeah.
We will have to wait and see. But then on, did you want to talk any more about Teysa and Kaya?
No.
Okay. So then on to the fight scene. Didn't want to cut you off in case you did.
No.
So on to the fight scene then. It was basically of named characters. There were only 3. There was Rall. There was, I don't want to remember her name, or don't want to forget her name, Farazine, the Minotaur Boros soldier who seemed to be Aurelia's right-hand woman.
Right.
And Domri were the 3 like named players in that fight, and then all the others were like archers, right? So like titled individuals, or that was their job. They were archers, or they were Viashino flamethrowers, flamethrower wielders or whatever.
Right.
Facing off against Domri and his Gruul.
Yeah, I wore my Gruul colors. I wore my green earrings and my light red sweatshirt.
Mm-hmm. So, Amy, then I will leave it to you then. What did you think of the portrayal of Domri and your Gruul in this fight?
Well, it's pretty clear that Rall really dislikes the Gruul. And my response was basically just, they'll kill you.
I will say, they sure tried. That was so impressive. I wrote it down.
It was a great fight scene.
Yes, I wrote it down. It genuinely had 5 parts to it, this fight. It had Domri alone, standing in the middle and basically just yelling at everybody who showed up, was like, how dare you come here, Borborigmos, or he called him Borbor, which I loved. He's like, Borbor wanted to talk, now I'm in control. And Rall's like, yeah, good luck, you're going to have to face him in combat. And Domri's like, well, it's done already, so too bad. So it was Domri alone. Then they said, you have a lot of guts coming here alone, because they had a full Boros Legion, and Rall and Farazine kind of being the general of that group. They had Sky Knights in the air, they had archers and shieldsmen on the ground, plus Farazine and Rall with his fully stocked, seemingly like new and improved accumulator, at least from what he said about it.
Until it wasn't anymore.
Well, it's not that it wasn't. I mean, he used it all because, you know, there were... I agree with what Fairzine said at the end, where she said, that was a lot more than I expected. That was not what I expected or something. I agree. Because when it was like, oh, you know, we're going to fight the Gruul, and Domri showed up, obviously I said to myself, I was like, he's clearly not going to be there alone. You're not going to, like, Domri is not known for being a character who's going to be able to just walk into a group of Boros soldier, like trained Boros soldiers and Fairzine and Ral, and just beat them all and not have any problem. He's clearly going to have backup, but they're the Gruul, so I'm sure they're lying in wait for, like, guerrilla tactics or whatever to, like, you know, surprise them, which made perfect sense to me. I saw that part coming. What I didn't see was the 5-part assault that they had. So, like I said, it was Domri first. Then after Domri, he kind of steps back when they said, you know, you have some guts coming here alone. And he steps back and he says, oh, I'm not alone. And they hear a screech and they look up and the Sky Knights are being attacked by flying creatures. Giant eagles, hawks, ravens, owls, just flying at them. The wilderness, right? I mean, like, you know, wild animals, but flying wild animals. Flying directly at these Sky Knights, slicing one of the birds or whatever that or dragons that the Sky Knights were riding, just knocking them right out of the sky. So then after the birds, then come more wild animals, because why not? This time a stampede of boar and on the ground. So they took care of the air assault, now they're back on the ground. We did get a really cool description of the Rubble Belt area while we were here, which I liked a lot. It talked about, or this particular area, I guess, of the Rubble Belt, but it was basically talked about all the downed buildings and the ruins of the structures. But there was still, I liked that there was still one building that still had like 4 stories, and that was what Fairzine referenced, where she was like, "This is bad. This is an area where we could get ambushed from." Okay. And Ral's like, "No, nobody's here yet," and she's like, "There's always, you know, they always attack us. Right. Don't tell yourself that they won't, because they always do." Right. So I liked that moment. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, then the boar come charging out from around and behind all of that and slam into the shield wielders and etc., the archers and the lances and etc. We just hear about all of that. And like I said, it's just a big long fight scene, but I loved it. And yeah, I'm obviously not trying to do it justice. You should, if you still haven't read it, you should definitely go do it. It was really cool. Following the boar stampede, then we had the anarchs. So the humans, the giants, the trolls, etc., whomever, charging out at the group. There was a giant who was, like, most of them, Ral is, or this is all coming from Ral's perspective, right? A lot of the Boros soldiers were still very well trained against all of this ridiculousness. Yeah. Right?
Well, because they're usually the ones that get attacked by all of this ridiculousness.
Right, exactly. So they were able to kind of adapt to the flying menaces, the boar stampede, right? They were able to deal with all that. I mean, obviously some of them died, but they're soldiers, and I'm sure that was just, you know, to be expected. And then with the anarchs, most of them were okay. They were easily dealt with. But then there was that giant. And the giant was definitely a problem. We heard about that quite a bit. Because the giant was basically just swinging his club indiscriminately. And Ral was even saying he was hitting friend and foe alike. He was just swinging that club like nobody's business. And so Ral ended up being the one to take that giant down with a well-placed lightning bolt. Yeah. I really liked the fact that the lightning bolt, when it was described hitting the giant, it said that the giant glowed white for a moment. And I liked that. I'm curious if that was a coincidence, or I'm assuming he knows this and or looked it up, but I, thankfully, fortunately, have never been in a situation where lightning has struck me or anything around or near me. I'm grateful for that. Yeah, exactly. Knock on some wood. I'm very grateful for that. But I do know some people who were in a vehicle that got struck by lightning. Everyone was okay. They were around to tell the tale. But they did describe the fact that when the lightning struck the vehicle, everything through the windows was just white. It just glowed white. So that's absolutely, from my minimal knowledge,
Yeah.
that absolutely is a thing that happens in the real world, I guess, if and when lightning is to strike. I don't know if that's the case with a human body or a living body as well, but I know it's the case with a vehicle. So I guess good realism there. Again, I'm curious whether that's just something that Django Wexler knew, or if it's something that you might just be able to Google, like what happens when something gets struck by lightning, and you watch like videos or whatever, slowed down. I'd be curious. But I said 5. That was only 4. Then after all of that, the birds, the Domri alone, the birds, the boar, the anarchs. Then Domri comes back, and when Domri comes back riding a giant elemental monster, which is awesome. And it's an elemental made out of like trees and vines, which is to be expected.
Yeah.
But also rocks and statues and stuff from the ruins of the Rubble Belt itself.
Right.
Which is so flavorful for Gruul, so flavorful for Ravnica,
right.
that an elemental from a plane that is mostly city would have those things in it, like broken pieces of structures and statues in it.
Right.
It made
and
perfect
just like
sense.
Raul said, they live in these ruins and they're trying to defend nature as much as they can, but they really don't even have a true understanding of what nature is,
right?
Because they live on Ravnica.
Right. Well, they have a true understanding of what nature is on their plane and their plane alone.
Yeah.
That they've never truly seen a wilderness in their life. And that I mean that's somewhat ironic that like that's what they're trying to get back with all of their actions and their
Well, they
fighting.
understand it's important, and they understand that the rest of the plane has destroyed that wilderness.
Correct, and they're trying to fight back civilization at all costs.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And so then this giant elemental comes in, and I love that they talked about like this is what we now know is the final wave, basically.
Yeah.
And as it comes in, you hear about the ineffectual firing of arrows at it, right? The arrows kind of bounce off of it. Well, yeah, you shoot an arrow at the tree, like, I'm sure the tree doesn't care. Right. You shoot an arrow at the statue definitely doesn't care. No. So, yeah, the arrows were doing nothing. The shield men were not going to be able to do anything. So it took the Viashino flamethrowers, and it took Raul's lightning to basically take this thing down and to have Domri get to escape. Raul kind of sees him jump down and run away, and they try to follow him. But technically, at that point, when Domri comes down, he is fighting Fairzine as well. So Raul is dealing with the giant elemental. Domri's fighting Fairzine down on the ground. Very capable Minotaur fighter that she is. And we catch the tail end of that fight from Raul's perspective again. And we see that Domri is able to bury one of his axes into like her ribs area or her torso area. Yeah. And again, if you've been watching these JaARs, nobody ever listens to Joe. What does Fairzine do? Again, then now that Domri then runs away when Raul shows back up, what does Fairzine do? She pulls it out. Wow, we hit each other. That was fun. You all right? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I didn't know how hard I hit you. I apologize. It's my ring hand, too.
Oh, no.
Hey, I don't want to hurt anybody.
It's your ring. It's not my ring. Mine's the one with the stabby prongs. That catches on my hair every day.
That's true. Mine's just heavy. It just has heft to it. But yeah, so she pulls it out. Again, if you're new to JaAR, here's Joe's first aid tip for all of you. If you get a foreign object embedded inside of your body, don't take it out until you go see a professional, a medical professional. Because just don't. The last 2 people that did it, I think, died. Oh no, Raul almost died.
Right.
And then the other person that did it did die. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. She's a badass Boros Minotaur, so I'm sure she'll be fine. But, because it seems like she'll be fine. Once she did it, I was like, great, now she's dead. right? And especially when they were like, let's get a medic, and she was like, not right now. And I'm like, oh great, she's going to be the martyr, where she's going to be like, all right, we have to do all these other things, don't worry about me, and then she dies right there. And it's because she pulled the damn thing out, but turns out it seems like she'll be fine.
Right.
So, okay, good. But yeah, I metagamed it a little because I was like, oh, we didn't hear about Farazine in the War of the Spark novel. So I was like, she could die, but she could also just not be relevant enough since there were, I don't know, 38 other characters whose names needed to be told to us at any given time. So, but regardless of all of that. So that was how the story ended. What?
Yeah, pretty much.
So what did you? I mean, what did you think of the fight overall? You said you liked it. It was good.
It was really good writing. It was definitely a good fight scene. When I think about how Gruul was depicted, don't love it.
Really? Oh, I thought it was great. I thought like all the different waves and stuff was amazing. It was just one thing after the next, and once you thought, okay, that's really cool. They got the birds to come out. Very impressive. Oh, now they have a stampede of boar. Okay, that's awesome. Oh, anarchs as well. That's awesome. And then the elemental out of nowhere. Like, I just liked that it just kept building and surprising you.
It felt too orderly.
Okay. Oh, like it was a planned ambush in that order of doing things? Okay, well...
Like, okay, now is the time where we start the second wave. Now is the time where we start the third wave. And
I don't know how much
that's not how Gruul would work.
Well, I don't know how much I fully buy this, but I'll bring it up as an option for why that may have occurred. Domri's the new leader. He's a planeswalker. He's been to other planes. He has seen things outside of the Gruul and outside of Ravnica. And so maybe he brought somewhat of a new strategy. I would agree with you that Gruul itself is just, old Gruul probably would have been Domri standing there while the people are talking to Domri before he like gestures to them. The birds fly out, the boars run out, the people run out, and the elemental come out, all at the same time.
Chaos.
Yeah, anarchy, if you will. Yeah, that would make sense to me. I can hear you on that. The only guess I have, and I'm not even like confident in this guess, the only guess I have is that was Domri's new influence on the guild to make them fight that way. It didn't work, so maybe
it worked fairly well considering.
I mean, Domri escaped and everything else died. It seemed like.
Not everything else.
No.
Okay, maybe. But still.
I don't know. I really have no idea. That's a guess. That's a shot in the dark. I don't know. You could be right. You definitely understand Gruul better than I do. So
I don't know about that.
I don't know. I mean, I'm the Azorius guy, so I'm the one who wants to be making all the plans before the fight starts to know which wave of people to send in next and next and next as a surprise. So regardless, so that was the end of this one. Like I said, it was a very short one, but I enjoyed it. I think it was a nice. A nice bringing it back up after last week. We got that little tease with Kaya. I'm curious if Chapter 13 next week will just be them now fighting with Vraska immediately after. Or if there will be another planning session or something else going on maybe that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head right now. I'm not sure.
Another person coming to wash away their debt. That would be an interesting storyline.
I don't believe her. Don't listen to her. I don't believe her. She's being sarcastic. So, yeah, that is what we have for this week for JaAR. Like I said, if you missed it up at the top, my God, do we have a lot of stuff that already went on this week, that is continuing to go on this week.
Yes.
I hope that all of you get to get out to your own pre-releases this weekend. Our LGS is ready. We saw the picture today of all the pre-release kits stacked up. I'll see if maybe I can share it on my Twitter, or on our Twitter tomorrow, so that you can all see what that looks like. That image is always awesome to me. I love that the shop owner does that. That he takes this picture of all of the pre-release kits just stacked up, ready for the weekend. It gets me really excited. Not that the preview stream and the pre-release and the set reviews that everybody does don't do that,
right.
But that's just another level of it. and I'm going to be playing in as many as I can this weekend, so I hope you all get to go out to at least one if that is something that you would like to do. But if you're not sure, if my opinion matters to you at all, I highly, highly encourage it. So, anything else from you, Amy, tonight?
No.
No? Then we will see you all next week. I'll get there for another episode. I won't forget. Just why? Just because I forgot the intro twice? You think I'm gonna forget? It's a fair thing to try to make me remember. That's fair.
Yeah.
So we will see you all next week for another episode of JaAR here on Geek for All. What you can do this week to join in the conversation. We would love to hear from you. We would love to hear your thoughts on this chapter, on all the chapters, on Throne of Eldraine. Please don't spoil Wild Earth Quest. We've heard bits and pieces here and there, but don't purposefully go out of your way to spoil a book for us that we have not gotten a chance to read yet, because by God, there's a lot of things going on.
Yes.
So hopefully, if you've read it, feel free to let us know if you liked it or not. That is not a spoiler. Just let us know if you liked it. If you think it's worth the $3.99, we're buying it regardless.
We're buying it, yeah.
But I'm just curious what other people's opinions are. So if you've read it already, please let us know. But talking about this chapter, this story, the Wild Earth Quest story, the flavor in Throne of Eldraine in and of itself, all of those things. If you do so with us, if you do so with any of your fellow Vorthos or people who aren't Vorthos that you want to teach about these things, is a great way to show off your...
#Vorthos Pride.
Did I drag it out too long?
No, it's fine.
Good. So, once again, thank you all so very much for watching. Please check out these videos that are going to be popping up on the screen. We think...
So much stuff happening.
Yes, and we think you'll really like them. So please do so, and let us know your thoughts on those as well, as always. So, for now, from us here at JaAR, thank you all once again. I have been Joe.
And I'm Amy.
And as we always say, in whichever video of ours you watch next, we will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.